All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. Jack left town. Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
What was that ruckus?
What ruckus?
I was just in my office and I heard a ruckus.
Describe the ruckus, sir.
Does this mean we're not friends anymore? I'm in my prime.
Hey, Mike. Ain't it cool?
First you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. Blow. Good. Bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
What up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with you, the Metal Rail podcast, with longtime friend and musician Jason Steffen, aka Crash. I'm gonna call him Crash Override, just for this. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining me today.
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. I'm here, of course, to catch up with him. I had not spoken to this great gentleman in quite a long time, and I've chatted online, different forums and groups, but first time kind of seeing him face to face in a long time. He's been really busy the last 4 or 5 years. So busy, in fact, that he's got a new record out called Electric Elephant Graveyard. But before we dive into all that, just to kind of give some background about yourself, sir, just to kind of tell us what you've been up to, and then we'll get into your music part of it. So what have you been up to the last 5 years?
Yeah, so I joined the Army about just a little bit over 4 years ago during COVID. I'm a AH-64 Apache gun pilot. So I live in South Korea right now, learning how to shoot bad guys in the face. I don't represent the Army in any way. That's just a little joke they would say, but no, it's a really difficult job. It's really, really rewarding. It's just physically, mentally taxing. It's a really awesome time. And the thing that I like the most about it is that it's a job where 99% of the people self-eliminate. So everybody, they watch Top Gun, they watch all these sort of movies like, oh man, I wish that I could do that. But nah, I couldn't do that. And the second they say, no, I couldn't do that, they're gone, and guys like me have a chance. So that's like the biggest thing, that there are really, really cool, unbelievable things that you could do out here flying $40 million gunships, taking them upside down, flying over trees and shooting rockets and stuff like that. It's something you can actually do. So I wanted to do that, and turns out there's people that would let me do it. Crazy enough. So here we are.
Very nice. You're also now a family man. So for people that don't know, Crash and I go back a long, long, long time. I mean, we're talking like early to mid 2000s. He was a wee bit 16-year-old kid on the internet talking shit.
Yeah, we first met in 2004.
Yeah, it's been a long
2004.
time. And just through the forums and stuff. And then, of course, we started getting together in 2009 for MDF and stuff like that, because we were helping you out a little bit around that time. Just great friends and a little bit of Neko action there. Yeah, it's a long friendship you and I have had for a long time. Great friends, and obviously, as you said it when we were talking off stream, that sometimes in life you split off a little bit because that's where life takes you. Different things happen. Everybody's got to take care of their own business and do what they need to do. But one thing I can appreciate was your talent for music. Like you were really great at guitars and creating music, and a lot of it was like humor. You and I have a lot of the same type of interest in terms of the kind of music we like, metal or otherwise. We're both into progressive stuff, death metal, Devin Townsend. I'm sure a lot of those influences play a part in your music. Uh, Now, one
Yeah,
thing
absolutely.
for this is your fifth full length, basically, with your record. But
Yeah.
this one takes you in a different direction than the first four. The first four were kind of like a little bit of noise grind and stuff like that, but now you're more into like a little bit of progressive metal. What inspired you to kind of make the musical change?
Well, I mean, this all started with a joke that I had between friends, where I had always been the progressive metal guy, always like 30-minute long songs, all that sort of stuff, big Dream Theater guy. But I think that I'm the same way that a lot of people were, where once they heard anal cunt and they would spend more time with the back of the CD just going over the song titles. And that always appealed to me, that you and your friends could just talk about a band that you would never actually have, but you would create all of these great song titles and album covers and stuff. And then the music was secondary. And I had had an idea for one called Pissectomy, just because I thought vasectomy, oh, what rhymes with that? Oh, pissectomy. Okay, great. We're just gonna uh, take the piss, and we're gonna just make kind of an anal cunt tribute band. And after that, it was just an idea that stuck around until I had met a friend in one of the shows I was doing named Jackson, who noticed that I was wearing an agoraphobic nosebleed shirt. And he was a drummer. And so instantly I was like, oh, I don't care. This is the opportunity to make something, whatever. We don't have that much time. Okay, we're gonna just it's gonna be free jazz, whatever. We're just gonna splice up a bunch of samples, record just some random ass drums, and make some like locusty anal cunt just yelp vocals, and we're just gonna put it out there just to have something to do. Um, and that actually did pretty well with my close amount of friends. And I kind of just did that a couple more times, just in between gigs. But all this time, I had been writing regular metal songs just in the background, but I didn't really have anything to do with them because I didn't have, first of all, I didn't have a full band, but even smaller than that, I didn't know drummers that were capable of playing that more extreme progressive style of extreme metal. Didn't know any vocalists. I really just uh, was pretty isolated in that. And then after I joined the army, I finally had a budget. And so I was able to go online and sort of find some people for hire. And I tried a lot of people out that didn't really work. But then once I settled in on a drummer and settled on a vocalist, that really solidified it. And I started to write more material to be conducive to that. And then at the end of a couple of years of that, there was enough material for an album. So unlike what most bands would do, which would be in secret write an hour's length of material or an album's length of material and then present it all at once, it was sort of like a piecemeal. Let's do one song at a time and put that out
Yeah,
there just so there's some attention. And then when it's all done, we'll put it together as an album, because you and I like full albums, and a lot of metalheads still like albums. But if no one's listening to your music at all, getting them to listen to a 40-minute chunk is easier said than done.
yeah.
So
It's a little easier sometimes to kind of give them an appetizer to what might be coming. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm the band guy wearing the band shirt to the interview.
Hell
So.
yeah. I think this is an Electric Wizard shirt. So,
Very nice. Well, I'm gonna play a couple of real quick tracks from some of your earlier releases. This first one's
okay.
called "Dead Pet Society" from the Bullies record.
Yeah. I
This is
did this one in
around
your
the
basement.
yeah. This is a little bit more of the noise grind stuff, but you'll understand some of the humor that Jason brings into the music with these tracks.
For the heavyweight championship of the world.
Yeah, it's samples from Undertale. Uh, and the vocals are like some sample from some anime. So like that early stuff was insanely sample heavy, and my reasoning for it was that I didn't have I didn't have riffs. I didn't have a lot of stuff that I thought was interesting enough to make it past like a demo stage. So to sort of bring it conceptually, artistically to the next point, what I would do is like with every release, I would stay up really late at night going on YouTube just looking for the weirdest things that I could find to sample because I found there to be a sort of interesting dichotomy between on one hand trying to make the most offensive music possible, but on the other hand all the samples were just from generic non-age restricted YouTube. So
Hmm.
none of the stuff was like me being that extreme. It's all just stuff that was out there. So and because there was no label or anything, I blatantly pirated stuff. So
Well, don't
no
feel bad because I
copyright.
remember when that second record got released, I saw it on like a download site, so somebody else was taking your shit.
Good. No, that's
Yeah, so
like
they
I
were
put I
sharing it.
pushed that
So
out to begin. That's like everything. The only track that I've ever had taken down was off the third album, and it was basically music set to an Alex Jones rant, and Alex Jones got removed from YouTube, so they took that, which I thought was just hysterical because it means like now you can't even make
make
art.
fun of them.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like right. So that's what I thought was really funny. Um, but yeah, no, that one in particular, that one actually has a real guitar solo in it, so that one's not too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
that
do.
one that one did In Your Basement. That whole album.
I believe it. Many times I'd wake up, he's playing guitar and singing
Yeah.
and writing tracks. So I believe that. I also remember I forget what year it was specifically, but you would been living with us and we were going to MDF a lot, and there was a point where the creators of MDF were making a documentary, and you were in the pit. I remember, but I also saw this on your Instagram, and I kind
Oh
of forgot.
yeah.
I didn't realize you had made the front page with MDF.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that was I'm pretty sure that was 2012 because the doc like I don't know if you ever watched the documentary.
I'm trying to remember. I think we did. It might have been a
Yeah,
long while, but I think we
it,
did.
it, it was good, and I really like the guys who do Maryland Death Fest. But kind of the thing about it was that was the year that security was really bad, and it
Yeah,
caused a lot of delays, and so they had to like they had to cancel Venom like 20 minutes into their set because of noise curfews. So it's got to be 2012 because that was the year that all of that stuff went down. Um, uh, And I remember seeing that
I
one in
think
there.
that's the
So it's
year
got to
that
be
Speed Wolf played twice because the first time
yeah.
everybody missed it
Now
because of the lines.
now that being said, that was an amazing, amazing lineup year. So despite all of the bad things, like, yeah, because Speedwolf had to play twice because the security wasn't their normal guys, and they essentially didn't know what a metal crowd was like, and they weren't letting people in if they were wearing spikes
Studs, yep.
and shit. And it's like, so you would sit in line for like 3 hours, and it was really bad. But to their credit, like there was people on Facebook back in the day, like when Facebook mattered, but people would be on the Maryland Death Fest website, be like, "Yo, this is happening right now." And to their credit, they made it happen. Now, you guys went and saw Speedwolf. I was in the pit for Sleep, which is
The
one
pit
of
for
the which was one of the coolest shows I've ever seen. So like I'm a big, I think. Well, you and I, you're pretty similar to me. I love every single style of metal that I can get my hands on, um, in some way or another. And that year, Maryland Death Fest was big on the stoner doom stuff because it was
Is
like,
that the same year that Misfits played? I can't remember.
you mean
Or
Melvins?
not the Misfits, the Melvins. The Melvins.
Yeah. Well, no, that
Yeah.
that was a great lineup that night because it was Melvins, Repulsion, and Sleep. So it was fantastic. Yeah, it was a really great year. I'm trying to think. There was a couple other uh stonery bands, I think. But regardless, that was a really great fest.
The only thing I can remember regretting was, and much to your credit, you were there the year that Ghost played, and like you were like telling me
No.
you got to come see his band, you got to come see his band. I was like,
Yeah.
I just don't get them, man. I don't understand what they're trying to do. But then after the second album, I'm like, okay, I get it. I should have went and watched them like a dumbass. But then
I
I did see them a few years later.
yeah. I didn't get to go that year. I can't remember why. I think they were there 2010. Um, but that's because now you are right. That would have been the way to see it because that first iteration of Ghost to me is still the best one because uh while I like a lot of the stuff off the second album and the third album is you and Missy's favorite. Um and that's when we got to see them do their acoustic tour
Yep.
and meet them. And that was really great. But that first album, they had almost like is it Goblin, the band that did all of the soundtracks?
Soundtrack stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And John Carpenter, it's like Ghost's first album had this weird thing where they were making not especially metal music, but catered specifically for a metal crowd in such a convincing way. Um, that, like I still think that first Ghost record is really good, especially if you are a fan of Alice Cooper, Blue Oyster Cult, old Black Sabbath. If you're into that 70s stuff, it's really great. But even more so, that year is the one year that Repugnant played
Yep.
Maryland Death Fest, which is Tobias Forge's other band. And I even listened to some Repugnant earlier today. They are one of my absolute favorite death metal bands. Probably my favorite Swedish death metal band is Repugnant. So I think they haven't played a single show since. That was a one-off because Ghost was there.
Yeah.
So, yep, sucks I missed him, but you're always gonna miss somebody.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play another one of your early tracks. It's from the last
Cool.
record, Piss and Shit. This one is entitled Pecker Checker.
Oh, hell yeah.
We live in the same state. I'm looking you up, and when I find you, I'm going to rape you and remove your head. And I am 36 years old. I did 12 years for manslaughter. I killed a woman who decided to make fun of guys' cocks.
When the penis went in, kind of felt like pooping.
Yeah.
but with my vagina.
And he was like, don't push me out. And you're like, I got it, man.
Exactly.
You're like, this is the worst crap I've ever taken. That is the best. Was it good for you?
I am a proud, ignorant woman, and no one is going to change that.
And that's not Pecker Checker. That one is Pig Knuckles.
Oh, Pig Knuckles. Sorry. Yeah. I think I meant to get the other one first. But yeah, Pig Knuckles is right. Yeah.
those just got sillier and sillier as they went on. I'm pretty sure I did that entire album on. Oh, I'm pretty sure that I did mushrooms for 3 weeks straight and locked myself in my apartment during Christmas. And
Yeah.
so that whole album just came off of like 2 weeks of just, like I said, going on YouTube and just finding stuff, whether it was good or bad. But if it was interesting or it would make me laugh, it would go in.
Yeah, I remember that was a big thing for you back then. Just trying to insert as much comedy into this because like you even did like that solo porn stash record that you had done, like which was very interesting and fun, but it was vastly different than any of the metal stuff. But
Oh, those
what was
songs.
your go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm interrupting.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, what was your thought process when writing back then compared to now?
Oh, well, those songs actually, funny enough, the next thing I'm going to be doing is in bet in between doing sort of the metal stuff. I've still got all those songs, and uh, I think that like nine tenths of them I still think are really good. And kind of like a lot of the metal stuff, all that they needed was proper production and a proper drummer and proper mixing and mastering and stuff like that. So there's a lot of those songs that I'm actually going to redo and finally sort of give them the attention that they deserve. So all those were kind of just demos and making up for the fact that didn't have solid drummers. Like that's where a lot of that stuff came from. And even the first four Pissectomy records, all of those ones are my riffs based off of the drums. Like I would sit my buddy Jackson down and I would say, "Hey, play me some blast beats. Play me like a shuffle beat. Just do some crazy fills." I would put headphones on him and just sort of play guitar to it, and he would just free jazz it. I would take all of that. There'd be like maybe 2 hours of just random drum stuff, and I would splice it together into things that I thought were interesting, and then I would write guitar and bass over it. So it's like that last song that wasn't written by me. He just wrote the drums, and I was like, "Oh, what can I put on top of this?" And that's how those riffs came about. So that was a really creative way of doing things, um, because
Yeah, that
it
seems like it'd
is.
be a difficult thing to do just because, you are hearing the beat, but like for me, like I'm not a musical writer or anything, but like just trying to think of how I would normally think about give me a riff first and then I could do something with that. But to take drums and try to do that is pretty creative on your side to be able to come up with something and just throw it on top of it.
Well, it was a way to bypass writer's block because, like I said, like this new record took a long time to make because I was being primarily a guitarist, very much a perfectionist. So when you get writer's block as a guitarist, um, there, so sometimes it's not very clear as to how you're going to get around that. But since the earlier Pissectomy stuff was so freewheeling and it didn't really matter. Uh, I could kind of just let it figure out what it wanted to be, sort of like more of a Captain Beefheart, free jazz Dada sort of way, where like just a modern art sort of way of it, like throwing paint on the canvas and seeing if any of it was good. And given the fact that I like noise records and I genuinely like Anal Cunt's music uh in its place. It depends on like what it is. Like not every noise record is awesome, but there's a lot of them that do appeal to me. So it was never the point to make music that I wouldn't like. So uh I've listened to, obviously, to the earlier Piss records hundreds of times because I was making them. But essentially, I was like, "What is what would I want to listen to if I was going to make a noise record?" And that's the same thing as like usually I'm my own worst critic, but also my own biggest fan. In that, like I make music for me to listen to. A lot of artists will not say that. Like it's pretentious to be like, "Oh, I listen to my own music," but I legitimately do, because I'm trying to find music that I like that isn't being made somewhere else. So like with the new stuff, it's like, hey, what if there was a band that mixed the brutality of like Cryptopsy or Origin or all of that stuff, but also had a little bit of that King Diamond or Dream Theater, not quite power metal, but that classic progressive heavy metal style. I just really like blending all of that stuff together. So whatever works,
Yeah.
works.
Let's talk a little about the new record. Like I said, it's a new direction for your music. You're going more into a progressive elements here with this. So I have a couple of tracks from the record. I will play like little snippets from because they are a little bit longer. I'm not going to play the entire track, but
Right.
let's just talk about like from track to track. So, Welcome to the Dead End starts. I have not had a chance to sit down with your record entirety yet, so I will this week, and I know I'm probably going to love the shit out of it. But just tell us a little bit about your first track here, "Welcome to the Dead End." What's it about? Again, in terms of your writing, like you just decided you were going to kind of go on more mature direction, or at least I wouldn't say mature, but more different direction with your writing. So, just tell us a little bit about that first track.
Yeah. So with Welcome to Dead End, I wanted something that sounded almost like the the entrance to Castle Grayskull. Like I just thought this big, low fantasy skull castle with lightning in the background sort of vibe, and I wanted something that would have that same triumphant, uh, spooky, evil sort of flair. And I remember when I was writing it, I was also listening to a lot of Devin Townsend's Vampira, and so I learned how to play that main riff, and while playing that riff, I sort of came up with the riff to Welcome to Dead End, and it had a prior iteration for a show that I did back in my early 20s, and it kind of just stayed like that in the background in my sort of like backpack of song ideas. And then for this one, I brought it back. And the coolest part about it is that I extended the solo. I think this is the best solo on the record, and it really just opens it up uh, to just have a big 3 minute long guitar solo that just keeps on going and just keeps on getting better, bigger and better until the very end, which I think might be one of the strongest parts that I've ever written. But the outro track, the outro portion of the track is just really loud and heavy and epic, uh, almost like power metal. And that's something that I've always wanted. I was talking about like mixing brutal death metal with progressive metal, but even more, it's just the feeling of good epic power metal. Like I'm a big Twilight Force fan. I love Rhapsody. I love Blind Guardian, and that stuff isn't as popular anymore. And there was a brief time where bands like Equilibrium were mixing that extreme metal sound with the epic stuff, but they would always get shoehorned as a folk metal band.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
so it was like, what if you just took out the folk elements just a little bit, but you kept it just as epic, but you kept it just as heavy. And so that's kind of where I was going for this, was like, let's make this as big and evil as possible without somebody just being able to go, oh, it's folk metal. It's like, nah, it's classic King Diamond
Hmm.
sort of metal. It's not the fastest. It's like it's not the fastest song. It's not the most technical song, but it's just got a vibe and it's got riffs like like all of the best King Diamond stuff. So I could talk about that for it. I could talk about my love for classic heavy metal for forever. So
Yeah. On the second track here, it's called Between Ghost and God.
mhm.
What does that mean?
uh that I think it just means, first of all, I'll state it off saying that I came up with the title first before I thought about what it meant. I think that's just us now. It's supposed to be what is humanity. There's sort of a fake story that goes through the album. It's a concept album, but only in so much that I wrote it all and then figured out what the concept and through line is afterwards. Um, but that song in particular is sort of about like death and rebirth in a very cheesy metal way that mixes uh like Eastern Buddhist reincarnation stuff with like stupidly advanced math that I don't know how to comprehend, uh multiverse theory, like just taking all of these things and putting them into one to show that whatever this character in Welcome to Dead End say that they're finally dying, and then they see the white light or whatever, and in this song their death is their rebirth, and so they are now being pulled out from whatever they were falling into, out of their new mother and back into life, like whatever sort of oblivion or peace they were going to have. Now, oh, now we're just fucking doing it again. You're stuck as a man, as a human. You're somewhere between God, ghosts, whatever. Sounds cool in a metal context. Feels weird to explain it. Um,
Putting you on the spot.
but no, I'm glad that you did, because I was thinking actually about this earlier, like thinking about having to explain the songs, and one of the things that I love about heavy metal Satanism in general is that there's no way to explain it that doesn't sound silly, but when
Yeah.
you listen to it, it makes perfect sense. And that's sort of that black metal seriousness that comes through. So like the feeling of the epicness of the song, I just wanted it to have this crushing vibe, where all you could do is put your hands up just like this in the pit and just let it just crush down on you. Almost like the early Mastodon, the early Gojira records, um, were a lot like that, where they weren't the fastest thing, but they were just crushing.
Yeah.
So
Your
I like
third
that.
track.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like that one. Oh no, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
So the third one's got me really curious because it's Shark Star. So I love the title. So I'm curious what that's about.
That one is funny. I wrote the music first, and it shares the same lyrics with another song that I wrote a while ago. I used to be in a band called Singularity, a technical black metal band from Arizona, and I got kicked out. Um, I was probably being an asshole, but they used a bunch of my stuff still, and I was like, yeah, that's fair. I've
Oh,
Metallica, Dave Mustaine.
this is like a Dave Mustaine Metallica
Yeah,
thing.
but unlike them, where they can't get over it forever, I'm all just about, hey, you know what? Music needs to be heard. I want to use stuff that is good. So if it's good, I'm going to use it. So I wrote the song. I think got more of like a Children of Bodom uh power metal vibe. Um, it's really actually inspired a lot by Psy's Gallows Gallery, which is the one power metal album that they did, and I
Such a good record.
something about just the words Shark Star to me thought it was is interesting, because I was thinking like Death Star and stuff, like just trying to think of other low fantasy things to put together. And I was like, okay, well, if it's using the same lyrics as Singularity, what's sort of like a other way of saying, and like, oh, all encompassing, black hole, devouring. Oh, okay, so it's like a star that eats everything. Oh, it's like a shark. Oh, okay, shark star. That sounds metal as fuck. Let's do that. And that one I think had like turned out really well. It's got my favorite bass line on the album, which I'm pretty sure I ripped from Megadeth's My Last Words, the last song off of Peace Sells.
Yeah.
And that's the only one that I sing vocals on. But the guitar solos are really cool. I really like how those turned out. Um, I was just happy to write something that sounded like a power metal, like an old, like a mix of power metal, but more in the American or British style. So almost like a Judas Priest song.
When it comes to your album artwork, do you do it all yourself, or do you like hire someone to give you the images, or how do you go about choosing the artwork?
The first three I did myself, just using kind of stock photos uh, from the internet. The first one was a really famous like art project done in the 40s by a French artist named Marcel Duchamp, and that's like that urinal is a a not really a statue, but it's an exhibit that he did called Fountain, which the entire point was that if you just take an ordinary day object and you put it on its side and put a frame on it, now it's art. And I always thought that was
Yeah.
really funny. Same with Bullies. I saw that photo and just thought that it was the most like D beat hardcore punk looking thing ever, and just knew it had to be an album cover, and then just wrote an album around that image. The third
Hmm.
one, Bat Soup, that was during COVID. That's got a bunch of uh, Fox and CNN uh, samples on it, and that one's some stock photo of Chinese bat soup. The fourth one, Piss and Shit, was done by a artist named Gruesome Graphics, who
Hmm.
he did a logo for me as well, and he's big on Instagram, and he's done a lot of art for the Black Dahlia murder. I think maybe cattle decapitation. He's done a lot of, especially T-shirts. So you
Yeah.
might not recognize his album art, even though he does a lot of album art for independent guys, but he does a lot of shirts, and that one was good. This this one, Electric Elephant Graveyard, was a idea that I had, but I couldn't draw it well enough. So since I was using Fiverr to find drummers and vocalists and other musicians, it's also got a lot of artists. So I found a guy to work with to sort of make that first image, and then I put it all together in on my iPad. And there's a program called Procreate, so that's how I made the album cover. It was a little bit of me, a little bit of other artists. Everybody got paid.
Now I noticed you got like some cool like anime tapestries and stuff behind you. I mean, does any of that ever kind of come into play into your music at all, or is it just more of a fan for yourself on the side?
I definitely love anime, but I love a lot. There's to me, and I think that you might even be able to agree because like look at the stuff behind you. There's the media consumption aspect of a lot of stuff, but there's also like the aesthetics, which is
Yeah.
like I've always liked the joke of the serious joke of the PC battle station. Like it's not just your computer, it's your battle station with, RGB everything. It's got to have that. And at a certain point, it's really nerdy and cheesy, but also I think that stuff is fun. Um, so there's sort of th- there's sort of a factor that goes into it where there's some people I know who are really, really into anime. Um, Not to a point that I think is bad, but to a point where I don't find it interesting anymore. But
Yeah.
I've always appreciated the aesthetic that kind of, hey, I can't think what to do here. Oh, put a hot anime girl on there, and you're like, yeah, that'll work. So I found these two on Amazon and thought they were cool. So it's like, there you go. I don't do a lot of collectible stuff like that, but when I find something that I like, especially for covering up bare walls. I've got other stuff in here like a Rhapsody poster, like especially if posters come in records, those things almost always will get put up. Um, but yeah, definitely when it comes to anime stuff, it's usually the older stuff, like Akira or Dragon Ball. But I loved the cyberpunk anime, and I think anybody who did also fell in love with just the aesthetics of all that stuff, all that old kind of Blade Runner esque aesthetic.
All right, well, back to your record. Track 4 is actually the title track, Electric Elephant Graveyard. Kind of tell us a little bit about the writing process and what that song means to you.
This is the first one where the entire song was original, as in it wasn't me pulling riffs from old songs I wrote as a teenager, or it wasn't based off of something that I originally had written maybe with somebody else and decided to repurpose. This was all its own thing, and I didn't really kind of know where it was going to go, but I knew it was good. And this was the first one that I made with the budget to get a real drummer and get it really produced, because up until this point, I've had demos and stuff like that, but I'd never really heard my music sound the way that it sounded in my head. So this was the first song that I did, and when it came back from getting mastered, I just remember hearing it and going, "Oh, this is good. This is legitimately good. This is now I'm finally making music that I want to listen to." And not just in a more jokey noise way, but like I seriously was like, "Okay, no, this contends, especially," and this isn't really me throwing shade, but it just is what it is. You and I listen to tons of great classic bands that are now in their later years, and their stuff just isn't that good anymore.
Right. Right.
And this is where I was going, like, I'm a Dream Theater fan, I'm a Mastodon fan, I'm a Ghost fan. This song is better than that stuff. And that doesn't mean that everyone's going to agree with that, but at least when I heard it, I was like, "Oh no, this is like I'm hearing now the stuff that I wish that I'd be getting when I hear any of those bands release a new album, and it's just not there." Uh,
Yeah.
so this was what convinced me, like, "Oh, okay, if I'm not hearing something, I can now go and make it." And there's resources available to actually help bring it up to that professional level, to just put that gloss over it.
Well, I do have a little bit of a clip from this song, so I'm going to play it
Oh yeah.
for everybody now. Check it out. This is Electric Elephant Graveyard. There you go.
Yeah, like I said, that was the first time I ever heard my music with that, especially just that low end. We were like, "Oh, this is real heavy metal." And it was just it, I remember being so happy when I finally got it back and had no idea what it was really going to sound like. And when it sounded that good, I'm like, "Okay, we this is for real. Let's continue."
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds fucking great. You talked about how you got like different people to be involved in the project. Now, I know you are like a huge Psy fan. Like, we actually, Neko and I just saw them again this past year at MDF. They were
Yeah.
fucking wonderful. Uh, is it kind of like on your bucket list to try to get Murray or somebody from one of your favorite bands to kind of guest on one of your records?
I mean, maybe I'd honestly never really thought about it. And I think that the reason why is because, at least at this point, I'm a bit of a control freak. And when you
Hmm.
pay somebody, especially like on Fiverr or another website where payment, like you really are hiring people, so it allows me to give notes without feeling bad. It allows like a song like this doesn't have any keyboards, but like the drummer, I write everything in like Guitar Pro and I send it to him and he can send it back and I can go, okay, this is really, really fucking cool. But from 30 seconds to 35 seconds, I need this to have a particular type of fill, or try this again. Or I'll have them do multiple takes and I'll pay them to do those multiple takes so that I later can splice them together. So I haven't really gotten to the point yet where I'm comfortable like bringing somebody in as a guest, mainly just because my method of direction is like, I'm not looking for anybody to do a favor. I'm looking for
Yeah.
people to do genuine work, and guys at that level, like maybe he would do it. I know that Mirai has done he did a lot of work for, was it Necrophagia back in the day? And he also did he's also worked with Meads of Asphodel. But I think guys like that, they're only going to work on stuff if they find it interesting. So, hey, maybe in the future, I'd love to make something that a guy like Mirai would want to play on, especially like keyboards. But maybe that's like the next stage. I know that it brings up kind of shades of Aeon,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
like the biggest super project in metal, and that was sort of the inspiration for me, that it was okay to pull from different sources and not every single song had to have the same lineup. Was just
Yeah.
seeing how, was it Arhin Lukinson? Uh
Yep.
I think that Aeon is still going on. I haven't checked out their last couple albums, but they had a really great streak where it all sounded together, even though there was a million different people playing on each album.
But that Human Equation record, I mean, just Devin on there. You got
Oh yeah,
Michael
Devin.
Afford. It's like a lot of
You
great
got
players on it.
James Labrie.
Yeah.
James Labrie. That was like one of like the last really good things that he was on. That we don't need to talk bad about Dream Theater. I love Dream Theater. I don't need to. I don't know. We don't need to say anything. Everybody
Hey,
knew.
they got some
Yeah.
great stuff in the past. We know that.
Oh, I listen to them all the time, and they're having a great time. All the power to them.
So your next track, track 5, Piss Realm Antichrist. This definitely seems like a nod back to the earlier stuff in terms of at least the topic itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, no, this is another old song written at the same time as Welcome to Dead End. Um, and this was always meant to be sort of I call them like driving songs. I'll just say like a list of them, like every Motorhead song you've ever heard of, uh, Motley Crue's "Kickstart My Heart," um, even like Hot for Teacher uh, or Highway Star. It's just all these songs that they have a drive to them that are great in the car, and they've got just a little bit of rock and roll in them, but they're heavy and fast enough that they just have a really great, almost not a groove, just a really really plodding drum beat, almost like a Danger Zone from Top Gun. It's just like
Nice.
I wanted to have sort of that, just like Judas Priest songs.
Yeah.
Like it really is, and not like in a painkiller way, but like I'm a giant Judas Priest fan, and I'm always trying to sneak in classic, not just classic Judas Priest, but even like their underrated cuts as well. So like Exciter, that's like a great example. Is I just wanted to have that vibe.
Right, right, right. Oh, look who it is. Look what she's sporting. Neko has entered the building.
Oh shit, no kidding. What's up, Missy? What is that, King Diamond shirt?
It
Oh,
sure
is that
is.
Fatal Portrait?
Mhm.
I almost wore my King Diamond shirt today, but I wore Electric Wizard instead.
Oh,
How are
look
you
at your
doing?
face. Good.
I know, I got my fireplace and everything.
Yeah. His built-in fireplace.
I love it.
Absolutely. You look great.
Thank you. So do
You're
you.
welcome. I know.
I'm just heading out
I have going to see my mom. So,
All right. Well,
you
it's
guys,
awesome to see you.
good to see you too. I'm really
Yeah.
happy for you.
My brother's band Gestation is playing Maryland Death Fest next year.
That's insane.
And there's a very good chance that I'll be able to go next year as well. We have to find out where we're moving, but we're moving in January. So if I put in leave early enough, there's a very, very good chance that I'll be going to Maryland Death Fest next year to go
Oh, we're
support
gonna
him.
get the
So
whole gang. The whole gang will
gang
be
is
back
back
together.
together.
it looks like a good lineup. I wasn't so sure at first, but I know without looking at the lineup now, I know that they have Stargazer, Dying Fetus,
Dying
and
fetus.
like for me this is a cool band, TOOH, like
Yeah.
Czechoslovakian grind band,
Cool.
The Obliteration of
Cool.
Humanity. Two. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like they if having Dying Fetus is enough, because I've been a big Dying Fetus fan the last 4 years. And I've always wanted to see them. And Stargazer is a amazing
You've been
Australian
in a
progressive
Stargazer
metal band.
forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Stargazer's a really big influence on this album, actually, in general, just sort of their take on progressive metal without losing the metal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get
Anyway,
them.
yeah.
I'm hoping they get like Kathy of Flame to do the Elvin Frisk album. I'd love them to be able to contact them for that record.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
So-
bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff that I wanna check out.
So are you coming back to this side of the world, or?
Yeah, we find out this movement cycle, the way that army stuff works is that essentially there's every every 6 months there's a draft almost, and when it's your turn, when your contract is up, you get entered in a draft, and like not like a military draft, like a almost like sports, and
Yeah.
the amount every base, every unit has a certain amount of slots, and they have certain things that they're looking for, and you kind of are expected to go behind the scenes and kind of just email the people and kind of like figure out your own deal, almost like. So actually, the guys we were talking to were at Fort Riley, which is in the middle of Kansas. But out of all the places that were available after living in Korea for so long and being in so many really busy places, I would just love to be able to find a place where I could buy a house and have some land, have a little bit of a backyard, and not really be next to a giant city, because it just is
Delaware.
it just is what it is. But if we get Fort Riley in Kansas, it's right in the middle of the country, so it's not too big of a deal to kind of go anywhere. So we find out soon. So it
Good.
could be Riley, or I mean, so yeah, it could be Kansas, could be Germany, could be Alaska, could be
Yeah.
Texas, could be New York. There's a lot of different places, but the guys I've been talking to, we've got a deal, so we'll see if that deal goes through.
Awesome.
Does kind of sound like the college football draft.
Yeah, right.
we
It's
got a
exactly
deal
like
on the
that.
back end.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Which it makes sense, because you're just making their lives easier because they don't have to figure out where to put you now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right.
All right,
Yeah,
well, I'm
so
heading out.
we'll see.
You boys have fun. I love you.
You too. See you later.
All right, love you too.
Love you, Jason.
All right, bye, Missy.
Bye.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because you've been in South Korea for a while. Have you learned some of the language out there, or how does that work for you?
I know how to say two words. I know how to say hello, and luckily, hello and goodbye are almost the exact same phrase. And then I know how to say thank you. And that has gotten me basically everywhere I need to go, because most young people in Korea speak English, and most people in service positions at least speak enough English. And if not, there's translation apps.
Yeah.
So I use that a lot. Should have learned. I'd love to say that I had the opportunity to learn more, but with everything going on with work, it just learning Korean was not on the table. So I know how to say hello, goodbye, which is annyeonghaseyo, and then thank you, which is 감사합니다. And if you say those things and you're polite, that'll get you through 99% of the situations that you need.
Good deal. Moving to track 6, astronomy. Tell us a little bit about that.
That is a acoustic piece that I had written a long time ago and have always been looking for a place to put it. And I think that I've always been of the opinion that a metal album should have one small soft spot. Like the best ones always do. And it's got to be strategically placed. Because hell, you're from the 80s era. So you got to see that slow, steadily incline where one ballad per album became more than that until suddenly you started having bands where they basically were only making ballads.
Yeah.
And that's when, so no wonder grunge came in and killed all of it. Because I don't think that grunge killed the hair metal. I think it killed the ballads.
Power ballad, yeah.
But the best ones, which like Fade to Black on Ride the Lightning, or let's see, another great example would be Goodbye to Romance on Blizzard of Oz. Or actually, even the biggest inspiration probably was Strapping Young Lad's Alien. It's got near the very end, it's got that little song 2 weeks, which uh, sounds very much like what Devin would do on Ghost on that whole
Yeah.
album. But it's just like, it's such a good little respite, just a good little breath before the album finishes. And so that's why I stuck it in there, because I knew that the album would sort of just be pummeling after pummeling after pummeling, and then just give it one little chance to breathe and be pretty.
Did you find that when you were writing the record that you like, because obviously you talked about how you put like a couple singles out here and there, and then you kind of put the full album out recently. Did you find that you had to kind of go back and rework some songs? 'Cause you've been working on this for at least a couple of years. So was there any like rewriting you had to do, or is it pretty much how you wrote it the first time?
The only thing that I did was the first two songs, Electric Elephant Graveyard and Pistol Antichrist. I had originally recorded with me on lead vocals, and Welcome to Dead End was the third song I did, and that one had the death metal vocalist Topias, and he did such a great job that I started using him for almost every song that I did from that point. So I went back and had him sing those two songs. So those were mainly sort of the main things, because, like I said, when I first heard the finished Electric Elephant Graveyard, I'm like, oh, there's something to this, but. Once I got to Pius, he's a vocalist from Finland, which I need to actually pump his stuff up more on Instagram. But once I'd gotten his vocals, I was like, oh, now this has a shape, this has a voice, this has like a center, and he's a really great vocalist. So that was the thing that I changed.
All right. Track 7, Starstorm Omega. That sounds like definitely a spacey death metal band song.
Yeah, Starstorm Omega is the special move of Ness in Super Smash Brothers. But I'm a big Earthbound fan, and he's so I always thought that was a cool title. But realistically, that one was the longest to write, and it's got a lot of pieces from old songs that I had written, new songs. It's chock full of references that nobody but me is gonna get, but just it would. I remember working on that song, like, I don't know where this is gonna go, and then depending on what I was listening to, those riffs would show up. Like, I'm not even gonna tell you which riff it is, because it doesn't matter. But there's a riff in there that's completely inspired by uh, Cannibal Corpse's Stripped, Raped, and Strangled, because I'd been listening to The Bleeding a lot and was like, oh man, there's a really great riff in here. Like, how would you write it? how would you write a riff like that? And then suddenly, an hour of jamming later, and then that's done. Or another, the middle section is completely a tribute to "Doomed by the Living Dead" by Merciful Fate, like where it all stops and it's just got the bass drum. It's just
Yeah.
doosh, doosh, and it goes like really rock and roll for a second, and that's a complete tribute to the breakdown in that Merciful Fate song. So there's a that this one has a lot of little pieces that are just references from other songs that I liked, um, and sort of am trying to hide that I ripped them off.
We just call it borrowed.
Yeah, no, like there's 5 or 6 references in there that if somebody, I'm pretty sure I play the riff to Black Metal by Venom in there. I'm pretty sure
I
there's an
think sometimes you
Offspring
do
riff
it
in there.
just
Yeah.
like people in general just kind of do it unconsciously. Like I listen to Bear Mace, and there's literally a song they did off an album or two, which is a direct like line off of Spiritual Healing by Death. Like it's technically all there. They change up a couple things, but it's
Oh
totally
yeah.
there.
Yeah, and then once I found it, I said, well, now what I'm going to do? You know what? I think I like it. I can do something else with it, and it's a tribute. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So the last track on the record is Singularity. Is this a reference to the band that you played with, or is it just entirely different?
No, this is the very first song this is completely a Singularity song. This is the first one that we ever wrote, and it never got properly recorded. And I always loved it, and I thought it was the best thing that we ever did, despite the fact that it was the first thing that we did. So I cannot claim sole songwriting credit for that. The other members of the band at the time, John Lowe, Jack Fliegler, and Nick Pompliano, definitely helped write it with me. But I know that what I can say is that a lot of the riffs were mine, the lyrics were mine, the shape and structure of the song was something that I was completely in the room for. It was very important to me, and I was very depressed that even after I left, that they never re-recorded. Never. I think that they said something about the fact that it had 2 guitar parts and they didn't know mine. So I just learned the other guy's parts. So uh, even even some of the solos are completely almost note for note Jack's. And this song is really like you could call it just a cover song based off of that band, but you know, kind of in a Dave Mustaine Metallica way. I left the band, and this was also like over 10 years ago. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
complete water under the bridge. But so there's no ill feelings at all. I just love metal. So if a song is great and isn't being recorded, it's got that's what really matters. So
True.
yeah, in that Dave Mustaine way, they did the Four Horsemen, and their version is better without Dave. Like the Four
Yeah.
Horsemen's better than Mechanics.
Dave did
So
Mechanics. So
so I don't care. Meanwhile, that's the way I looked at it, was that, no hard feelings. They did some stuff. Uh Hell, they still have the logo that I drew. So like good for them. That's awesome. But this song has been sitting on the back burner for the better part of 10 years, and that's dumb. So I was like, nope, we're doing it, especially since I have the drummer, I've got the vocalist, um, everything. And I think it's a really great piece of progressive metal. Like I just think it kicks ass.
well, I got a little piece of morsel from that record, from that song. So let's listen to Singularity. And there you go.
Hell yeah.
I know you and I talked about it, a while back a little bit, because there was this change in direction with the band. Why stick with the name? Like, why not just change the name of the band?
I've thought about this a million times, and what I read, I think that the main reason why I kept it was just because I already had the people, like the people who kind of I was already talking to and knew it, and for sort of lack of a better reason, I couldn't think of a better name and couldn't think of a better logo and just sort of all that stuff. Like I thought about a lot of different ones, and especially now with the sort of Instagram, TikTok era, there's a million ectomy gore grind porno gore bands. Some of them are jokier than others. Some of them are pretty serious. Like we're gonna actually open up for vulvectomy. So like there's a million ectomy bands now. And it definitely feels weird to inadvertently be caught uh in something that seems like a trend, and
Yeah.
definitely a lot of people who are more in tune with extreme music, like they might see the band name and go, okay, this is going to be just another gore grind band, or whatever, so I'm not going to listen to it. But it sort of just became like a calling card, of it's not what you expect from the name, but I love the logo. I love sort of the imagery the of the lyrics. Like it still had something to do with it, and it sort of just became to the point by the end of the record. Like even on Piss Rum Antichrist, I'd written a lyric where it's like "Long live Pissectomy." So it's like it was too deep in by the time, and
Yeah.
that was like, and that's why the record kind of took so long, is because when stuff is taking that long, uh, you start becoming self-conscious, and I heard it described as the work becomes like your baby, and the baby's never going to be good enough. So you're always second guessing everything and thinking, oh, I got to
Yeah.
change this, I got to do that. And at a certain point, like, we got a name, we got this, put it out. And if the next record, hey, if the next record needs a new band name, there's a million guys like, I always think of the guy from Abigail. He's got like 5 bands. And
Yeah.
and for the most part, they all sound like they could be the same band. But
True.
sometimes it's
True.
like so if the next thing sounds like it's got to be different, then it'll be different. And if I can come up with a good band name, then cool. And if not, then yeah, it'll stay this way. So uh, it's the sort of thing where the the logo almost looks better than the name. Like I love the logo, I love how everything's turned out, and it's just it's something that I've sort of just become known for, at least in these smaller circles. So to change it just to change it is just more work.
True. Very true. Very true. So for those that are like younger, musicians and up and coming and guitar heroes or whatever, like what type of gear do you use and what kind of tuning do you use to get your sound for the new record?
Oh well, let's see. I can grab a couple. I got 2 different guitars that I used for this album mainly. I've got. Let me see if I can get this into frame. All right, so this is a Schecter Hellraiser Flying V that I use in drop D tuning. It needs a better Floyd Rose. This is one of the cheap ones, but it does keep it in tune really well. I got this guitar about 7 or 8 years ago, and that's what I used for the majority of the tunes. But about 2 years ago, I invested and got myself a BC Rich Ironbird. And
Ooh.
this is what I use for all of the E standard stuff. And this one has a real Floyd Rose. So this one can really do like those dime bag style dive bombs where the other one can't really handle it. So
Yeah.
uh another thing that was kind of important to me, at least when making this, was the idea of making modern metal that was really heavy without detuning too much. Because I love a bunch of this stuff. I actually just even got a new 7 string, and I'm still kind of playing around with it. I've never really played uh, stuff that low, but I think that there's still a lot of room to explore in drop D and in E standard. 'Cause that's what most of the classic stuff in the 80s was written in, but there's been a real push towards C standard and 8 string gent guitars. And I like actually a lot of that stuff, but a lot of it just kind of bores me as a player. And that's kind of a push to bring metal out of the gent sort of bedroom guitarist era and back into like the low fantasy um, whips and chains and sword and shield kind of era of heavy metal that I really respond to. So
Yeah,
like
that's
that
a great
Merciful Fate
point
stuff.
because I know when I talk to Neko, like she likes like guys like Devin Townsend and stuff like that, but then she doesn't really care for the what we'd call wankery. And so you make a great point about like kind of bringing back the soul of progressive metal, like or even progressive rock. Like you want that soul in there because being technical and great is fun, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't really speak to you in a way that's something that's more soulful, even when it comes to like those classic power metal bands like Blind Guardian or even Twilight Force, where at least you've got the soul of what they're trying to do. Whereas some of the other
Right.
stuff is just like, hey, I can do this a million times, you just can't keep up with me.
Yeah, hey, and I'm not even gonna hate on those guys because I can't do most of that stuff. And even like sometimes I write stuff that, not every day is the easiest stuff for me to play. So it's like even when I record stuff, it takes me sometimes a million takes to get a solo to sound just the right way that I want it. Um, so it's not a knock on technicality. It's just it, I I either remember the song or I don't because it's so weird. There's like a weird flex that bands try to do where they say that they're focusing on songwriting now, and almost inevitably it means that they suck. It's like it's like the songwriting can be great without having to sacrifice the heaviness, the speed, the rawness. Like it's almost like in a weird way when David Lee Roth left Van Halen and they brought in Sammy Hagar, and you hear all these people saying, "Oh, well, at least Sammy Hagar can sing and they can focus on writing good songs." And like that was the whole thing. Like even today, people are like, "Oh, well, Sammy Hagar could actually sing." Like I've been on a big Van Halen kick recently, and David Lee Roth is singing his ass off on those albums.
Yep.
He's an amazing singer. Like that's where people are like, oh, he's a great vocalist, but not a great singer. And you're just like, fucking, who knows what the hell any of this is? And what, like, suddenly because the songs got more boring, they weren't as good. No, the David Lee Roth era has far superior songwriting,
Yes. Yeah.
and you
Like
can
that's
tell
the
that.
thing I'm always pointing to is like, I like the first couple of Hagar records with Van Halen. And even though he had some songs later on that weren't bad, if you measure up the catalog between Hagar and Roth, Roth is far superior, both in songwriting and vocals. Like it's
Right.
a little bit more fun because they got a little bit more mature with Hagar. But the reality is, a lot of those albums after 0812 were just filler stuff that weren't very interesting. So like, I
Yeah.
remember when Roth came back for that compilation they did around the late 90s. And there's a song called Me Wise Magic with Roth performing on that record after being away from the band for so long. When they played that song, it felt like that band had not missed a beat whatsoever. Like it just was like one of the best Van Halen songs they'd written in years. And that wasn't really to shun Hagar and what he did with them, but I was like, if they had gotten back together after that particular song, that would have been like a whole reunion reunited Van Halen with Roth. That would have been pretty good. But Ross' ego was very big, and he oftentimes got in the way of
Yeah.
himself a lot of times with that band. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. A lot of the best stuff that Van Halen had was on those early years, and it was just amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of just to go to say that anytime that you knock a band for being too technical or too fat, like whatever, there's always somebody who could say the exact opposite and say, okay, well, that's it's just that you can't play that or something like. So I love all these different types of heavy metal, but you've got to you've just got to make stuff that I either feel it or I don't. Like I'm not the biggest gent fan in the world, but there's a guitarist named Pliny who I've loved everything he's ever made. And it's because his stuff sounds like real songs and they actually go somewhere. And I don't feel like I'm just being sold like a pickup. Like a lot of these things now sound like commercials for guitar gear, and that's fine, but that's it's just not what I'm into. Uh, I've always really been into songs and albums and having a sort of self-contained piece of piece of work. That's even why like good example can you name a Joe Satriani album outside of Surfing with the Alien? Some people I know
Uh,
can, but it's like that's the one though. That's the
right,
one.
right,
Or
right.
or or Steve Vai's got Passion and Warfare, and then he's got the rest of Steve Vai's career. Um, at least his guitar stuff. Like you and I could have a great conversation about how Sex and Religion is a classic, but that's because that sounds like a band.
Yeah,
It
yep,
doesn't just sound like a collection of songs we couldn't get a singer on.
yep.
So that's what was very important to me was that even if this is sort of a solo project, that it sounds like something that a band would make.
And speaking of which, because obviously you're in the military, so you're flying these Apache helicopters and stuff, and doing your thing. Now that you're a little older, how does metal music apply to you in your day to day life? So, I think of like the Iron Eagle movie where he's jamming the Walkman while he's flying an F-16. But do you and some of your comrades find yourselves like, hey man, do you ever jam this while you're working out, or like in the helicopter just start pumping it up? How's that work?
I wish that I could say that people in the military had better musical taste, but they're 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 normal people, and no matter where you go where you find normal people, you're going to find a lot of people listening to the same stuff from when they were in high school, and that's it. There's sort of a stereotype of military guys listening to like Five Finger Death Punch, and that's a thing. It's
Yeah,
funny the unit that I'm in the Slayers, and we use like the Slayer logo. So I come in, I'm like, oh, like Slayer, like fucking Auschwitz, the meaning of pain, the way that I want you to die. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, oh, this is weird. I'm the weird one because I actually know the band. Like people will just wear Slayer shirts because that's what we're named after, and they're like, I'm like, it's
but they don't know
Slayer.
the
You don't.
history. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what that's fine. That's they people like they like. I've got a bunch of good friends I listen to very different music with. Like I've got one friend that I mainly listen to jazz with. I've got another that I mainly listen to rap with. Not a lot of metalheads, but every once in a while you meet one, and when you meet one, you sort of just like link brains and just go really really deep in. So every once in a while I'll find somebody who knows something I have a captain who, out of nowhere, apparently he knew about Batushka. I was like, "What the
Wow.
fuck?" He's like, "Oh yeah, you work out. It's good workout music." And he had never given it another thought, but he knew it. So it's like every once in a while you find people that know stuff. And I've met some guys who go for the more extreme stuff, especially like the brutal death metal, slam stuff, but. It just like anywhere, it's hard to find people who are really into extreme music, and almost when you do, they they almost don't want to be found out because they don't want to have an autistic moron like me just be like, oh, well, did you hear the? I have an original press of the 1983 version of Slayer, or I mean, of Satan's Court in the Act. Would you like to come over and listen to it? Like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to listen to it. But the way that it helps me is that with a lot of driving and riding my motorcycle and stuff, I'm just always still consuming new music. So it's like I always make sure if you're going into the parking lot, you put the windows down and you turn the music up as loud as possible so that everybody knows that Sanguisuga Bog has a new song out. Like that's how I make sure, is that when everybody else is listening to Five Finger Death Punch or something, I come in with a new Sanguisuga Bog album or something like
It's
that.
like they're listening to Five Finger Death Punch at 8, and you're like, no, but this we're up to 11.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny. Even a couple days ago, I'd shown the song Singularity to one of my friends, and he decided, oh, I'll put it on my phone speaker and play it in the company. And I swear to God, one of the other guys just ducks his head and goes, is this Metallica? And you're like, oh my God. No. I mean, and to me, that's so funny because I love Metallica, but it's crazy to me to think that there's people who don't know every single song Metallica ever wrote that matters. So it's like, to you and me, it's different. Other people would come in and go, "Oh, is this like a Metallica song?" And you go, "Metallica only has 12 songs. Like they have a bunch of other stuff, but like when it comes to like the end of the day, they've got maybe they got more than 12. Let's say, what would you say? Metallica has like 20 essential listening songs, maybe one or two more, but like
Yeah,
from
I mean,
those first.
if you take like Ride of Lightning or Master of Puppets, that would be like full records that I think are very good. You take some off of Kill 'Em All, you take a couple off Injustice, maybe a couple off the Black Album, but after that, it's like it's really, really hit or miss, like really hit or miss.
Yeah. There's a couple
Uh,
songs that I don't mind, but I can't remember the
right.
last time that I went out of my way to listen to them.
Exactly. Like now, like I pretty much have written off Injustice and the Black Album, just not because I don't find a couple tracks fine. It's just that like
Oh man,
I spent all my time with those early records. I don't even go
I'm the
after that.
same way. I am the same way. It's funny. I don't even listen to Master of Puppets and Kill 'Em All anymore, but I do play along to them for practice because they're like the best. As a guitarist, there's no better practice than
Hmm.
Metallica. It's wonderful for practice. But as far as actually enjoyably listening for my own pleasure, Ride the Lightning is like the 10 out of 10 album for me. Um,
Yeah.
that I've actually been listening to a lot of thrash lately, and it's funny how so much of it is so much better, but it's not. I hesitate to even say better. It's more metal. It's bigger. It's like I was listening to Testament's The New Order yesterday. It's like The New Order is such a better album than Injustice for All or
Oh,
Kill 'Em All.
by
It like
miles.
it smokes it. Um and or like let's see, like hell, like I was just listening to two two albums I've been listening to a lot lately because I'm getting my back tattooed. So I listen to a lot of concept albums, just kind of make the length of the sessions not so bad. So I've been listening to King Diamond's, like I think that they have like a trilogy of 10 out of 10 albums, which is Abigail, Them, and Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And then Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime, like is just every note is perfect. There's not a mistake on any of those records.
Yeah.
And so those are the sorts of things that I try to go for now with music, is just let's just dial it in and just really kill it.
So if somebody was to come up to you after this interview and say, what records of 2025 would you recommend metal fans check out, or even rock fans? So I know you do like rock. You're one of those few people that, and I always found this interesting between you and I's dynamic because I am a bit older than you, but I used to introduce you to like newer records. You're like, oh yeah, I never heard them, but you are the one that's kind of like taking me back to bands like Camel, old Genesis, and stuff like that. So
Right.
I've always found that dynamic very fun because you're in reintroducing me to stuff in the past where I still kind of introduce you to stuff in the future. But of 2025, what would you recommend to people check out?
Okay, so you're not talking about albums released in 2025.
No, I am. I am.
Okay, well, because here's the thing, and I learned this about 10 years ago. I, outside of the things that I've been looking forward to, I almost never actually listen to most albums the year that they're released because that's when I haven't heard of them yet. When I hear about albums, it's usually at the end of the year or January when everybody makes all of their lists.
Okay.
So like a lot of the albums that I've been listening to, a lot of the newer stuff is still stuff from 2024 or 2023 that I missed. Whereas a lot of the 2025 stuff, like I'll listen to the new stuff. Like I knew Dream Theater came out with a new record. I listened
Mhm.
to it, didn't care for it that much. And so it just, I might listen to it again later. I'm going to give it other chances, but it kind of just
Yeah.
gets over here put away. Or like Ghost makes a new album, I check it out to just see, and I kind of go okay. And every once in a while, like Psy just did a re-release, or no, I'm sorry, a re-recording of Hangman's Hymn, and I love Psy. They're one of my favorite bands, and it's pretty good. And I get what he was trying to go for, but yeah, it's not my favorite thing. I kind of like the way that it was. And Mirai has actually talked about how he doesn't care what people think. He did this for him, so I respect that. And I know he does a million things. He's done a million little side projects. So good for him. Uh, but a lot of the albums that I've been listening to in 2025 are 2024 albums and a couple 2023 albums. But like I showed you that band Aberration
Mhm.
with their album Demonolatry, which is I don't even know. I think that was released in 2024. That one is fucking amazing. It's just everything that old school kind of thrashy, speedy death metal should be. It's so angry and angular. It never gets a chance to groove. It never sets in, but the riffs are just there. It's not just kind of brutal death metal where it turns into mush at a certain point. It's still just really high speed speed metal type death metal. It's really good. Uh Other new stuff, I'm just gonna say new stuff.
Newer. Yeah.
Yeah, newer. The band Gridlink is a like melodic grindcore band from the vocalist who had an old band called Discordant Axis. They had an album called Coronet Jupiter, that Coronet Juniper, which was really great. I think that you would even like it because even though you're not as much of a grind fan, it's really melodic. It's like it's almost a melodic anime Gundam like type take on grindcore. Like it's really cool. And then let's see what else am I listening to. The Last Dying Fetus is pretty good. Not their best record, but pretty darn good. Um, the last Wormed album was quite good, and I like Wormed a lot, even though all their stuff sounds the same. I don't care because they sound to me like what Origin kind of what I wish they would have gone through.
Mhm.
And then uh, let's see. I'd say the other stuff that I'm listening to, even just old stuff that I'm refining again. Um, Completely not metal. Kamasi Washington is a jazz guy that's really amazing. Just saw him live at the Soul Jazz Festival, and so if you're into like Adult Swim kind of hip hoppy jazz, he's
Mhm.
as good as it gets. Um, and then a lot of Motorhead. This year has been just like the summer with the sun is out, so a lot of Motorhead, a lot of Van Halen, um, a lot of I I hate to call it dad rock. I think that's I think that's it's an easy way to not listen to how good a lot of that stuff is. But the really more simpler 70s rock, like the first Leonard Skinner albums or
Mm-hmm.
the first couple Ted Nugent albums, like really good rock and roll music that doesn't have any studio glean. Because you know me, I'll listen to progressive rock and all that stuff all day long, but I've just been really into um,
More
the
straightforward stuff.
the killer straightforward um, hard rock stuff. So I've been listening to a whole lot of that, and then let's see, let's give one more for good measure. Uh, hell, let's just go with King Diamond. Always,
Never go
always
wrong
King
with King
Diamond.
Diamond.
No, oh, well, actually, did you not King Diamond related, but I have a feeling I'm going to go on a Black Sabbath kick based off of their final show, and I
Yeah,
watched that
I didn't
earlier
get to
today.
watch it, but people said it was really good. They said it was a
Yeah,
good
it's pretty.
job.
There's a lot of stuff in there. Like it was easily maybe the most mainstream metal show that ever existed. Like the amount of bands that they have on there, it's not like they brought Sleep on there. But
Yeah,
but you know, that being said, all the tributes were in good taste, you know, super groups or whatever, but um Ozzy sounded pretty darn good. And even when Black Sabbath came, it's like you could tell they were trying to keep it together. You watch, there's a couple flubs in War Pigs and stuff, but at this point, the point isn't to put on the best show ever. The point is to finish. It's like
yeah. Yep.
reach the finish line with respect, and I believe
Exactly.
that they did
That's the
that.
big thing. Like, don't embarrass yourself. That's the
And they
difference.
didn't. They weren't perfect. But they're human, even if they're
Yeah,
old. And like they brought Bill Ward back, and the fact that they did a final show with Bill Ward. That and like you'll watch Bill Ward's like 80 years old. He's got a shirt off and he's just having a great time. And he sounds like the best member in the band. So they did a good job.
well, man, I appreciate you sitting down with me. It's been a lot of fun catching up with you and talking about your new record. Let people know where they can find you on YouTube and Instagram and anywhere else that they want to hear the record. I know you've got your new record streaming on YouTube, so let them know where you can find you.
Yeah, it's on the Pissectomy YouTube channel. We got a Bandcamp channel as well where the MP3s are for sale, but it is available for streaming on Apple Music, Spotify, and I'm sure a few others. So if you find it, listen to it, share it, love it, hate it. Either way, heavy metal.
Yeah, I'll be like I said, I'll be checking out the record in full this week, and then I'm gonna take a few of the tracks and throw up on the Meltdown Radio internet radio so people can also hear it there. Again, thank you so much, man, for sitting down with me. It's been great catching up with you and chatting. I hope everything goes well with the family and your career over there. Can't wait to see. Hope I see you at MDF next year for sure.
Yeah, man, I hope
Which is-
so.
Yeah, hope it all works out. But yeah, hang around real quick afterwards. For the rest of you, like and subscribe to the Melatonin Radio Podcast channel. Give us your thoughts about the interview. Give him some love, please. Go and give this guy some love. Check out the new record, Electric Elephant Graveyard. It sounds good so far. I've already listened to a couple tracks. I'm very much into it. May make my best of 2025. You never know. But so far, it's a promising record, and I really, really enjoy it. And you're doing a great job, man. So keep it up. And for the rest of you, see you later. Check it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoy the 4th. Peace.
You see me for you.